Well, hi again, Scott here, founder of Innate Strategies, source for Emergent Impact. We're moving now to what would be session two of level one if we were doing this live. Just so you know, there's a coherent flow here. The level one, session one, was about mapping because you need to know how to map systemically, even at a small scale, in order to ask the right questions and assess the quality and completeness of the answers. Without that, any systems map you create will actually do more harm than good. So in level one, session two, we're emphasizing the interview itself. Since much of the foundation for level one has been laid in session one, this interview is a bit briefer. As always, if you care to learn more about Emergent Impact, feel free to go to either emergentimpact.com or courses.emergentimpact.com. And both of those links are in the description below. In the meantime, hope your work and world are nourishing you. Take care. Oh, hi there, Scott here. This is a little bit of a backtrack. You'll recall there's this fundamental dynamic at play in which things are, something's fundamentally broken. Even though we're making progress on that lower line, the need of demand on that upper line is exceeding the rate of gain. And so something's broken both in what we're going about and how we're going about it. And I would even offer why, but let's don't go there yet. We're basically taking what, in most of the clients I work with, they are in a state of chaos. It might be slow motion chaos, so it doesn't feel like chaos, but that chaos we complicate in the form of a systems map. And then we analyze that systems map in order to distill out of that the levers. And I'm going to change my little pointer here so it doesn't disappear on me. We simplify that in the form of the levers, and then we apply those levers as probes in the complex adaptive system to allow emergence to occur in order to restore health to the complex adaptive system. This is just a bit of a backtrack on what we covered in the first session. I'm not going to read it all to you. You can pause if you want to and review that. We will talk about the street medicine mapping and the immigration mapping at the front end of our class next time. This is the future pacing. That was the backtrack. This is about reality-based interviewing. You needed to know how to map in order to know how to interview. If you don't know where you're headed with the interview, then it's really difficult to get the material you need out of that. So that'll be session two. Session three will be actually doing mapping on your own of an interview, because you're going to pair up and do interviews among one another at the end of session two. And then session three will be actually converting those into maps. And then you'll look for the optimal path or the levers in that individual map that you do as a result of your interviews and session three. And then we'll talk about how to carry this forward. This is a question about the homework that you were given last time. What insights or questions or concerns or suggestions you have about how to make that better. We'll go deeper on how to map in session three, but if something's come up for you now that you want to respond to or want me to respond to, we'll do that. Then today it's about the ability to interview. And when I say building relationship and clarity at the individual level via appreciative map-centric interviewing, I really want to lean on that relationship notion especially. This is an opportunity here where every thought you have, every word you speak, you have a chance to deepen relationship with whomever you're working with. And to really approach this with a felt sense of authentic curiosity and searching for the positive intent in what they're up to. And as you do that, you'll be stunned at how much relationship you can build in that 1 hour interview. And that's relationship that you can port into each of the next phases of work that you're doing. And it really pays off well. And I've got some examples I'll talk about if you want to when we get together as a group around this. But that's really what this is about, is building relationship and then clarity, because you're coming at this through the lens of needing to be able to map this. And so you'll bring a level of sort of crispness and succinctness and insight that they're not used to in a typical interview. The other thing I'll say about that before I go on is it's a chance to add value even here in the kinds of questions you ask. I'm often, when I work with CEOs or other leaders, I often ask them questions that they don't know the answer to, but know they should. And that's okay. I mean, I'm often a placeholder in their calendar to think much more deeply about what they're about. So you're going to get a chance to experience an interview. So when that happens in the class, just simply observe that and absorb that. But then you're going to move toward embodying that interview. I'm going to ask you, what did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel as we went through a live interview in the class? We'll talk a little bit about interviewing psychotics. There are, and sociopaths. I've had to interview people who are intent on derailing the process or misinforming me. And there are a few little tests you can do on that that seem to work in the times that I've tried them. So we'll talk about that. There is a mindset to this, and it's one of being hyper curious and hyper rigorous. So that's that relationship and clarity kind of on steroids, if you will. When we're building out the map, or then we want to use their words, not ours. We really want to elicit their highest and best. Like, yeah, when we ask them, like, can you tell me your favorite success story? And then when I say elicit their highest and best, what I mean is when we build the map, we want it to represent the leader they're becoming, or the actor they're becoming in the system. Not necessarily where they are right now, but can we sense, can we see, can we give voice to where they're headed if they continue along this trajectory of work they're doing. And that is inspirational for them. It often adds a lot of insight, and again, it deepens your relationship with them. And if I've made it clear before, this whole time we're adding value and building trust from the questions we're asking versus the comments. When I say versus the comments, it's all too easy to want to get into a conversation with them about, oh yeah, that reminds me of, or do you mean it's like so-and-so's work? Or that's a bit of a distraction, because we really want this to be a focus on them. It's their interview. It's not mine. If I'm tempted to say, what I know about what they know, that kind of derails the whole thing. So really the light is shining on them this whole time. The protocol that I use when I interview has been the same now for about 20 years. And you will get people writing you or calling you ahead of time or whatever and saying, oh, can I have the questions for the interview ahead of time so I can study it? And it's like, well, I give them the questions, but it's not much. It's basically, what are you trying to cause, for whom, or what, or where? And how does that come to pass? Now, if it's a hardball business client, it might be, what do you have to achieve in the next quarter or the next, 12 months? It might be, what resources do you need, both hard and soft, to make that happen? You might phrase it in different ways, but with most people, I'm simply asking, what are you trying to cause, for whom, or what, or where, and what's required in order for that to come to pass, or for that to be. And then, can you tell me that based on your favorite success story? Now, that success story is about, first of all, it gives them, it's permissioned bragging, and there's something great about that people get to talk about themselves in ways they wouldn't normally be permissioned to talk about themselves, unless we're talking about that psychotic person. And when you do that, you're eliciting David Cooper Ryder's appreciative inquiry. You're setting a mood, and I've done this in business settings when people really wanted to talk about what was wrong, and you just keep pushing on what has worked, and what have you seen work, and what might work, and you keep pushing on that, and by the end, their whole mood is shifted, and they're a much better asset when you do finally get together with everybody. Or it's Jerry Stern's positive deviance, where you're trying to find the outliers that made the real difference. I mean, that's where innovation comes from, is it's on the edges. And yeah, so, and the other thing about success story is that we're not, it's not someone's fantasy about how this is going to happen. It's happened. It's real. And so it can be done. And that's a really important thing. You don't want to interview people in a way that others feel like you're in a make-believe land. They have evidence to support the elements that work, and you're trying to get to their 5 to 7 key drivers or so. And you're doing that as you go through the interview. You're backtracking and future pacing that whole process. And then the mapping mindset, when we get to that, we've talked about this before, but knowing it can be done, you are really smart. You're going to fill in the gray spots in your mind when you're doing the interviewing. There is a proven process that guides you, that is really reliable. You follow it. Please do follow it. Whenever I've not followed it, I've made little messes and had to go back and redo stuff. Not in front of the client, thank goodness, but on my own. And you're simply offering up a starting point when you do that. So it's not like you've got to be perfect in the map. You just gotta have enough of a good story to tell, that people know you've done your homework and that you've been thoughtful about it and rigorous about it. And here's another way to think about interviewing. You're trying to elicit their worldview in 1 hour. You're establishing and maintaining rapport is number one, listening deeply, and then reality testing the thing. And the way this works is, you're being compelling and engaging about the needs and purposes you're setting the context for the whole thing. Now that helps condition them for each of the meetings that are to come. You'll know it as priming if you're looking at it neurologically. And then you can do physical matching, which is a form of rapport building, but also demonstrating understanding. And that comes from the listening deeply part where you're genuinely curious, you're helping them to construct a worldview, and then you're reflecting it back in different words. Now, I said before that you use their words in the map, yes, but you want to be sure you're understanding it. So I'll typically say, I'm going to say this slightly differently to make sure I understand it. And then you use your words. Then that way, or I know when I'm doing that, I've understood it. So I'm demonstrating clear understanding, and I'm doing that again and again. And that really establishes and maintains rapport with them. And then this reality testing is I'm testing completeness by backtracking and saying, okay, so you've got A, you've got B, and you've got C. Are you done, or is there something more? And that helps them get clearer, but it also helps them think through what's coming. Like, well, what would be next? And in the process, though we don't explicitly talk about, you're actually contracting for personal change. They're saying to you, I want to cause this thing, and these things have to happen for that thing to come forth. So if at some point down the line in the process they start to waver, either individually or as a part of a group or a part of the whole group, you pretty much have, because the relationship you've established, a form of permission to say, but you said you wanted this thing, and you said if we did this you could get that thing, but now there's some hesitation here. What's that about? And so it doesn't have to be a punitive thing or a gotcha thing, but really a truly supportive thing about they wanted to get this thing done. And we have the chance to get it done. What's in your way around getting it done? And then I'll often, though I don't necessarily always have time for this, I'll do a conditional close. I'll say, so, okay, so you have A, B, C, D, and E. You had all of those on a scale of 1 to 10. What's the likelihood, what's your level of confidence that you would achieve your outcome? And if they give you a number less than like 8, then something's missing. And we need to ask the question, well, then what would move you from that toward an 8, 9, or 10? I don't think I've ever had in the interview phase, if I've done my interview right, ever had anyone be less than an 8, 9, or 10. Do in the large group work much later on in level 4, but not at this level. But it's a good test, because what it does is it anchors in their mind, in their body, that you did a really good interview, they did a really good interview. This is a real value add. So I'll remind you briefly as you get ready to step into an interview that we have this framework of a goal. I'm starting to call that more of kind of a heading, but people understand the word goal better. But in my mind, we're not moving toward a fixed state point in time. It's a step along a much longer path. There's the MECE level here. There's those next levels and the interdependencies. But you're only thinking about the goal and that level of key resources, key drivers here. That's all you need to worry about right now. And this proven process is, that get that goal straight, and then get those key drivers straight, and you'll be good. And then this that's grayed out is what's coming next. And then in terms of your homework, you're going to pair up, you're going to find a partner, arrange a time, and do just the interview. And with that, this part's a wrap. I'll see you all in the next class session. We'll go through this bit by bit. Take good care. Bye-bye.